What's up YouTube, it's TF Collector, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Studio Series Jetwing Optimus Prime, more commonly known as JetPOWER Optimus Prime, but according to the instructions, this is Jetwing Optimus Prime, so that's what I'll refer to him as for review purposes. But this is a combination between Studio Series 32 Optimus Prime and Studio Series 35 Jetfire. Those are the two figures you will need to complete this combination. Or if you have Studio Series 44 Optimus Prime, you can use this piece that is included with Studio Series 35 Jetfire. Just swap the chest with 44 Optimus Prime and you will be able to complete the combination with that figure also. Now, one other thing to note before we get into the combination, the instructions for this combination are found in the instruction manual that comes with Studio Series 35 Jetfire, so make sure you have that by your side if you're going to complete this for the first time. But these are the two figures we need. We have the instructions and we're ready to get into the combination, so let's get down to it. So we are going to start off with Optimus Prime. So as I previously mentioned, if you're using Studio Series 44 Optimus Prime, make sure you go ahead and swap that chest piece out. But if you're using 32 as I am, we can get right into it. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and remove his weapon, of course, and we're going to place that off to the side and we can prep Prime for combination. So make sure these D-pads are up against his legs and you're going to flip his feet back in as if you were going into truck mode. So do the same thing on the other side here. Just flip those feet in and that is how you prepare his feet. Now we need to turn around to the back and prepare this section. So the first thing you're going to want to do, just straighten these out so that you can untab this piece. And now you're going to want to swing these all the way around like so. Swing each side all the way upwards like so. You're going to want to straighten this piece out, untab this section so you can straighten it out. You want this blue section to stay tabbed into this silver part though. So make sure that stays like that. Now swing these pieces around like so you can keep this flush against his back like that. And then take these pieces and make sure you turn them in until they hit that tab. If you don't do that, you're going to get super frustrated while combining the two figures because those will get in your way. But the last thing you're going to want to do is come here and just try to get your nail in here and flip out, come on, this little tab that comes out from the back of Prime. Do the same thing on this side. Just try to get your nail on there. They did put a little notch for us. Thankful for that. But just flip those pieces out and here is Prime prepped and ready for combination. Now, since he is the bulk of the combined mode, we are going to have to do a lot more here with Jetfire. So let's get down to that. The first thing we're going to do, of course, is remove his accessories. So take the axe off, take the cane off, place those onto the side. We'll bring those back out later. Now, the first thing we're going to do is just tab his hands back into that post there, as if we were going into his jet mode. Just do that like so. Now what you're going to want to do is rotate inwards so the hand is facing the body like so. And then what we're going to do is bring it out and bring it down. So bring it out and bring it down like so on each side. So you get that looking like that. Now what you're going to do is extend this section. Make sure these pieces come undone. Extend this section out like so. Then you can go ahead and flip this piece here around. Make sure you extend this and you can flip this entire section around using that double hinge, which sometimes works with me and sometimes doesn't. Make sure you go ahead and tab this back in as if you're going into alt mode. You can tab his face up in there as well if you want and flip his little ears down like that. And now what we're going to do is rip off this entire section like so, and this will get put off to the side. But first, we want to go ahead and extend this nose cone section. If we can get that to spin around for us. Come on, like that. Extend that, split them, and now we'll put them off to the side. So we'll bring Jetfire back in and we're basically going to rip him in half. Make sure you grab the section you're ripping for this step. You don't want to break anything. You're basically, you can see the groove there. You're just sliding these two sections away from one another. So let me see if I can get this done. Let me do it off camera real quick. And now that is absolutely terrifying, but we're going to work with the lower half of Jetfire after we basically rip him into two pieces. So the first thing we're going to do is just flip this connector piece down. That is what slides into the other half of Jetfire in robot mode. And what we're going to do now is more ripping. We're basically going to slide both of his legs off. They are on sliders right here, so just do that. These are much easier to get off than the one in the midsection is, so just slide those off like that. And now we will work on the legs, so just sit the big old chunk over there, and we are going to work on these. So the first thing you want to do is basically straighten this section out and bring it straight down. Then what you want to do is bring it away from this thicker part of this section. So bring it away like that and open it up, and we can sit that off to the side. Do the same thing over here. Bring it down all the way away from that thicker section and open it up like so, and sit that off to the side, and we can bring back in the big old chunk worthy of Jetfire, and we're going to turn around to the back here. We're going to rip these pieces off. So just get these little gray pieces off of these sections on his leg, and we'll sit those off to the side for now and work on that a little more later. So now what we need to do is bring this piece together so that these are straight and parallel like that. Make sure this section is all the way down so that this section can come all the way down. And then you want to make sure you have these two little pieces down and out of the way. And you're going to split his crotch down the middle. Make sure the legs are all the way clicked upwards, like so. And then just open this piece up. Now, I haven't found any way to tab this in, but it does stay pretty sturdy. So that is how you want that section there looking. And now we have a big chunk, 2 legs and 2 shoulder sections, and we can bring back in our Optimus Prime of choice, and we're going to start with the legs. So basically this tab here is going to go into that slot there, so just tab that in like so. Now that little groove there on his foot will go into a little tab right there, so you just want to line that up and tab that in. And then this post right here will go into this port right here, so you just want to make sure you line that up. You got to use all your hinges in multiple different ways to line that up, and that will just click in and hold that in real nice and securely. So now we're going to do the same thing with the other foot. And now our Jetwing Prime has 2 legs, and he's getting to be a big old tall boy. But to continue this combination, we're going to want to flip around here to the back of Prime and bring in this piece. And basically what's going to happen here is these 2 notches that stick out on each side here are going to go over top of this piece on each side. The 2 tabs that we flipped out are going to go into these slots right here. I almost said tabs going into tabs. That wouldn't make sense. So basically you're going to have to line all this up. Make sure you get the 2 sliders lined up like so. That should drop right in, and then press the tabs in on each side. Now, as I previously stated, if you don't have these 2 sections against those tabs when you're transforming Prime for combination mode, that is going to drive you insane, and this will not stay on. Speaking from experience, trust me, it's very annoying. But now, if we can get him to stand here for us, my Optimus has got very flimsy limbs. But here is Jetwing Prime kind of happening. So to finish off the body of Jetwing Prime, we're going to want to bring in these 2 pieces. And if you can see, there are tabs on each of them, and they will just tab together like so. And then they will tab over top of this red section. So just line that up, tab them in like that, and that will give you a complete chest for your Jetwing Prime. And then you're going to want to bring in these 2 pieces, and these will be our last step for the main body of Jetwing Prime. So basically what we're going to want to do with these is we're going to take them, and we want the thick part facing us like that, and this tab here is going to go into this slot here on the shoulder of Prime. So just go ahead and line that up and tab that in. Same thing on the other side, line that up and tab that in. And with that being said, there is the base of Optimus Prime, Jetwing Optimus Prime to be exact. And now we're going off script because this part is not in the instructions, but they clearly had some intentions on how they wanted us to use this section. So we're going to get into that. Make sure you have this all tabbed in. Like I said earlier, for some reason it doesn't want to tab in, but you want to come here to the sides and undo the arms. Just bring them down. Undo that shoulder peg on each side and just bring these sections down. Now what you're going to want to do is rotate this piece to where the shoulder joint, whoop, too far, is facing you. Nope, not that one. You want the other one. You want the one that bends a halfway decent range. There you go. You want that one. So make sure you rotate to where that section is facing you. There we go. And then make sure you rotate your hands to where this tab is facing you, or slot rather. Make sure that slot is facing you, and we'll deal with that a little more here in a second. But we're going to take this whole section and we're going to bring it upwards like that. Take the tab, bring it forward like that. Bring these sections upward on their double hinges, and then come under here and keep this at kind of a 90-degree angle as much as you can, and you're basically tabbing that into that tab. So just bring all this up, tab all this in. You can see how that tabs in there. A lot of black here on Jetfire makes it hard to see, but you can see that tabs in there. And do the same thing on the other side here. Just bring that up, line that up, and tab that in, maybe. There we go. Tab it in, and that's how you kind of want that looking. And now this I saw on MGO 316's channel, and I cannot get this to work, but there's a tab right there that he somehow gets to tab into that slot right there, but I can never get it to work. It just never happens for me for some reason. But I just kind of rest it on it as much as I can, but for some reason I can never get it tabbed in, so I just rest it there. Anyways, make sure Jetfire's face is straight because you don't want him staring at you. But then you're going to want to bring in these two pieces here, and they will combine together, so just tab them together. Now, why in the world would they include these but not tell you what to do with them in the instructions? I don't know. They forgot to put this in the instructions, this whole mode for some reason, but you just slot that into these two sections on each side. And here you have the big old gun that Prime uses in the movie, and I don't know why this isn't in the instructions, but it's not, and it's annoying, but whatever. But if you want Prime to wield his big old gun, basically what you're going to have to do is plug that under his hand and then bring these pieces over it. So just make sure you kind of have enough room to get this done. Now his body weight cannot really support this that well, but you can kind of just tuck these over it, bring that up, just kind of have it hanging out there. I mean, you can't really have him point it, but I think it's supposed to be there because they included those two little sections. But here is Prime, and like I said, his body weight just does not really support this. There he is with the gun. I'll fix that. And if we feel as if this massive gun is not enough for us, this does not please us, we can bring in Jetfire's other accessories, and you're just going to fold this one up like that. And then you see there is a little slot right there that will go into that tab under the arm, so you can have that gun going on the back of Prime's arm there, so you can have some more armature. As for the axe, can't really do much with it, but they do include that you can store it. As you can see, tab there, slot there, basically just a matter of lining that up and tabbing it in like that. And you can see you can have some more armament going on with your Prime. And as for Prime's gun, he can hold it. You can plug it on the back of his arm if you want. Instead of that gun, you can plug it on the back of this arm if you want. Just leave that big gun off. But as for this, I don't really know what to do with it. I just sit it right there. But now that we have him all armed up and all transformed, I'm going to try to bring him in for a closer look. I don't know how this is going to go, but you already know what Prime's face sculpt and such looks like. If you don't, check out my review for him. But you can see just everything that happens. Basically, you got this big old jetpack going on. You got the pieces on the shoulders there. Of course, he gets some bigger feet, so he is taller, and he gets his big old gun. Not if you follow the instructions. For some reason, they didn't put that in there. But overall, you can basically see how this has turned out. I mean, you already know what figures you're using, so you kind of know what you're getting. But it is pretty cool that they included the option to combine these two together. And when it comes to articulation, most of it is the same as Prime. Head on a ball joint, arms. Can't do a full 360 anymore, but they can still swing around and whatnot. This piece can still move up and down with that. You get in and out. You get rotation, elbow bend. You do get a wrist swivel right there. He does have a waist swivel, but you can kind of use it. It actually works a lot better than I remembered. Now, the legs, the joints are really not good, but you can make his leg go up. It's going to fall, but it can happen. Can't really go back, can't really go out. You do still have a little bit of rotation there at the knee. Knee bend, you still get a little over 90 degrees. And when it comes down here to the ankles, that is the same as Jetfire. You can get a little pivot going on. You can get him moving up and down, but you do not have any rotation. Overall, though, for a big old guy like this figure is, I think you can get him into some pretty cool action poses. And if you want an idea of how big this Prime is, here he is with Studio Series 31 battle damaged Megatron. So he is still about Voyager height, even with the extra oomph that the legs give him. Maybe close to Leader, but about Voyager height. And if I can find one, which I hopefully can, here he is with a CG model of how he looked in the movie. So you can see how close they got this guy. And he does look pretty good. Of course, in the movie, he gets some upgrades on his face and a little more in the chest area. But I think they did a pretty good job with what they were working with. So that is my review for the Transformers Studio Series Jetwing Optimus Prime, combination between Studio Series 32 or 44 Optimus Prime and Studio Series 35 Jetfire. And overall, I think they did a pretty good job giving us a Jetwing / JetPOWER Optimus Prime. Of course, it's not perfect and he is pretty clunky. That is a big old gun that he's holding, and his body weight usually doesn't like to support it. As you can see right now, I have it rested on his knee, so he kind of gets some more support on it. But I am glad they included the option to combine these two together. That is certainly a great inclusion, especially since it is Studio Series and they strive for movie accuracy. It's nice that they gave us an opportunity to recreate something that happens in the movie. Of course, Revenge of the Fallen. If you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. What are you doing? But that is about all I have to say about this guy. Not a lot to say. The articulation is pretty good for a figure of the size. Unfortunately, Prime's leg joints don't really hold up though, so he will not be able to hold a high kick. His leg will fall. But I'm glad they included this feature. Overall, it looks pretty good. It is movie accurate. It's not spot on. Of course, Prime gets the upgrades on his face and whatnot, but overall, I think they did a pretty good job giving us a Jetwing or JetPOWER Optimus Prime, so I'm pretty happy with it, even though it is a little frustrating getting through the combinations sometimes, just because certain things don't want to line up, and it just gets on my nerves a little bit here and there, but I am glad with how it turns out, and I think it looks pretty awesome, and I guess that's what matters for the most part. If you're going to play around with the figures, that's one thing. But me personally, it's going to sit on the shelf and get played with a little here and there, or transformed, if played with is weird for you to hear. Transformed here and there. But that is about all I've got to say. If I had to rate this Jetwing Optimus Prime, I'll give him an 8 out of 10. It might be generous. He should be 7, 7.5. But I like the way it looks on the shelf, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. That's about all I've got to say. Don't forget, never sacrifice the things you love for the approval of others. Studio Series 36 Drift will be next on the road through the Studio Series, so I'll see you then. And until then, roll out. Peace.